Planning a trip to Taipei? Let me show you what is definitely worth trying without any sugar coating at all, and watch to the end for hints and tips for your forthcoming trip to Taiwan. Our journey to Taipei begins with the flight. Unfortunately, not the Eva Air Hello Kitty plane, but the other national carrier, China Airlines, which, despite how its name sounds, is actually one of the two Taiwanese national carriers. The plane food and service was standard. In economy, it didn't feel too cramped, although a positive was that it had a good selection of classic and newer movies, and I finally managed to binge and finish the whole Harry Potter series. Arriving was simple. We didn't need a visa from the UK, and the only pain was to fill out some landing cards. One thing you should definitely do once you pick up your luggage is to make a left where you'll see stands selling phone SIM cards from the major Taiwanese carriers. I did my research previously and understood that the carrier with the best overall coverage was Chonghua Telecom. So I opted for their 7-day 5G unlimited data bundle, which was 800 Taiwanese dollars, which is around £20 or 25 USD. After that, it was time to make our way into Taipei. You can take a taxi, but we found the train to be fast and cheap. It takes 35 minutes, and the usual price is 160 Taiwanese dollars, £4 or 5 US dollars. But if you buy a ticket from this booth here, which is just outside the station, it's only 150 Taiwanese dollars. Hey, every little helps. Let's start by showing you the most popular and bustling area of Taipei, which is also where we chose to stay, Ximending. It's a popular place for upcoming talent to showcase their moves, and you will come across street entertainment quite often while you're shopping in Ximending. And the rainbow crossing that you encounter as soon as you exit Ximending station is a popular IG background. Heading beyond the rainbow markings, you are welcomed by this signage which shows the entrance to the Ximending shopping centre. Here you will find a big Pop Mart store which has queues permanently outside. Directly opposite the Pop Mart store is a branch of the famous bubble tea chain Jin Feng. The only time where you won't find a queue for these two places are when it's shut, because even when I walked past at 8 AM there were people eagerly awaiting for their boba fix. One nice quirk that Jin Feng has is that with a purchase you get a fortune reading. See those red tip sticks? You pick one and go to the respective drawer to find out your fortune. There's a good variety of stores here, from cosmetics and skincare to homegrown fashion brands which entice you to part ways with your cash. Taking you back a step, to the left hand side of the rainbow crossing, you will see this historic red bricked building called the Red House. Built in 1908 and Taiwan's first public market. Nowadays it's mainly used for cultural exhibits and showcasing local handmade crafts and goods. For the insomniacs or the shopaholics amongst you, let me show you two stores that are open 24 hours. By no means the only store they have in Taipei, but certainly one of the bigger ones, is Don Don Quixote, commonly shortened to just Don Don. This is a Japanese discount store, and here you will find 3 floors selling everything you need and some things you don't. So you can't get to Japan, or let Japan come to you, and all open 24 hours a day. At 10 PM this place was still busy, but I had major jet lag, and at 3 AM this place was lovely and deserted, which enabled me to film to my heart's content. With shelves and shelves of snacks, grocery items, skincare, toys, and even funky socks. This Carrefour supermarket is 24 hours too. It's a 10-minute walk from the central shopping streets of Ximending and has a big variety of homeware, last-minute souvenir top-ups and groceries. I picked up this unassuming papaya milk and I would definitely recommend it. It tastes like a papaya milkshake. Let me show you some snippets of shopping in Ximending. This is the Wan Nian building. From the outside it is fairly unassuming and the street level shops look like standard affair. But go inside and you see floors and floors of figures, gacha machines, blind boxes, Gundam, and anime products. Perfect for both boys and girls and to satisfy your inner child. Next up, let me introduce to you 7-Eleven. Yeah, I know, they're almost everywhere, but Taipei has various themed ones. Let me show you two. Both of these are also conveniently located in Ximending. First up, Hello Kitty. The decor is so cute. Most items on sale are standard convenience store fare, but you do have some themed Hello Kitty or Sanrio products, but main reason to visit is to take pictures. Next up, a Lay's themed store, Walkers for those that are from the UK. To me, this store had quite an American feel to it. Taiwan is strongly influenced by Japanese culture, and this incorporates their love of gacha. You'll find whole shops dedicated to these machines, mostly unattended, but there is a phone number to call for assistance if required. We came across shops filled with crane machines. Yeah, most people think these are a con, but let me dispel that fact for you. Here's what I got, and this is how I did it. This is the crucial bit. See that counter there? The big 10 tells you have 10 seconds to move the crane once it starts. The $380 bit tells you how much the machine needs to take before it will definitely let you win. The 370 tells you how much has been spent since the last win. So here, total spent on the machine 370, didn't win. Spent 380, didn't win. 390, and bingo, I won. After it reaches the 380, it's not a guaranteed win, so you still need to maneuver it to the right place. It just means that the claw is not a limp squid, and the 2-in-1 was a bit of a fluke. And after you win, the counter resets back to 0. So make sure you check the counters before you start spending your money. Now you find another Taipei guide that shares tips like these with you. Moving on to the Taipei's night markets, first we start with the biggest and busiest, Shilin. Shilin is just 6 stops away from Taipei main station. There's 2 main entrances. This one here takes you past mainly prize game stalls, and the other one is more geared towards souvenir and accessories shopping. Here is a sample of some of the traditional games you can play. Past those and you get to the crowded street food areas. Shilin has most of the popular Taiwanese street food here, as well as some of the more obscure ones. It has black pepper pork buns. To be fair, I found this too peppery for me. Fried sweet potato balls. This is by far the best street food I had. If you like bubble tea, you will love the chewiness, or as they say in Taiwan, QQ texture of this. There was a couple of stands, but this one had the most uniform and roundest balls. Here they are, pushing them down to ensure that they cook uniformly. They do come in various attractive colours, depending on which variety of sweet potato they used. And here they are, crispy on the outside and chewy on the inside. This is candied fruit, and this is the peanut roll ice cream, which if you've seen more than one Taipei video, I'm sure you've seen them before. They do put cilantro in it, which is quite weird, but some people ask for that to be left out. This is traditional Taiwanese sausage. Some stalls call it sausage in a sausage. Quite nice, although some may find the sausage a little too sweet. Can you guess what this is? If you were actually there, you could smell this a mile away. Okay, a mile away is a bit of an exaggeration, but certainly from halfway down the street. Despite the smell, it actually tastes decent. Of course, it's stinky tofu. And you know those 3D screens where objects seem to jump out at you? Shilin has one of those too. Next up we have Raohe Night Market. Right outside the entrance of the night market is Chingyun Temple. Definitely less grand than the one in Jiufen, but a good example of ancient architecture and your chance to pay respects if you don't intend to venture to the outer lying temples. This is a smaller market overall, less busy than Shilin, but I found it less chaotic as all the stands are along the middle, so walking down one side you will have food stalls on your right and little local shops on your left. Raohe also has kiddie games too, if you don't intend to go to Shilin. It has black pepper pork buns and sweet potato balls again. although I found the one in Shilin rounder and more uniformly shaped. These are large grilled mushrooms which I had seen on other videos when doing my research, and to satisfy my curiosity I had to try it. It's okay, although I found them a bit on the chewy side. These are wings that have been deboned and stuffed with rice. This is worth a try as it's something different. And this is Jian Feng, which are rolls made from steamed rice flour. These were large crab sticks. It tasted okay. Main reason to try these was to gloat to the wife, who couldn't come on the trip but loves seafood. Taking you to the last of the 3 night markets we visited, this is Linjiang Night Market. It's split into the front game section and the latter food stalls part. Unfortunately, this was my least favourite. The stands are too tightly packed together with not much walking space and felt quite crowded, almost like you're being pushed along. There's some unique stands, but nothing really stood out to me. So if you're rushed for time, you can probably leave this one out. Let's have a change of scenery. This is us on the way to Maokong Mountain. You can take the MRT to Taipei Zoo Station, and then it's a short stroll to change to the gondola. If you use the Easy card, you can use that on the cable car too. There's 2 queues, one for the standard and one for the crystal cabin, which has a glass floor. Unlike the cable car in Hong Kong, which have differing prices, here they are actually the same price, so the queue for the crystal cabin was longer. If there's a long queue and you definitely want to try the glass floor, you can wait and try it on the way back, which is likely to have less queues. You can stop in between, but we travelled straight to the top to Maokong Station. It has nice breathtaking views, which makes a nice contrast to the hustle and bustle of central Taipei. In the distance you can see Taipei 101, and this is the bottom view from the crystal cabin. Throughout the journey you can see leaf farms, or is it plantations, and when you get to the top you can actually book tea picking experiences. It's quite picturesque if you like that type of scenery. There's the Taipei Tea Promotion Centre, which has displays on tea growing, drying and roasting. I've been there before, so didn't go there this time. There's a couple of shops that sell packaged teas as souvenirs with Maokong printed branding, so you can say, I made a special trip up to a mountain to get your teas. The main reasons for visiting Maokong was to get some souvenirs and also have a tea-infused meal in one of the many restaurants which line the mountainside, all of which have nice views over the valley. This was our meal, which had tea-infused rice and tea-infused vegetables. Taking you back to central Taipei, this is the outside of the Yat Sen Memorial Hall. If nothing else, this place gives a nice vantage point of the Taipei 101. Inside you can find wall-to-wall of traditional paintings, although the main attraction is the changing of the guards, which occurs every hour on the hour. I feel this is the lesser known cousin of the changing of the guards in Taipei when compared to the more popular Chiang Kai-shek Memorial Hall. So here you can actually get much closer to the action. The link for the full changing of the guard video is on the top right. And there's also a small souvenir shop for last minute fridge magnet buys. This is the view from just outside the Chiang Kai-shek Memorial Hall. The changing of the guards here is also every hour on the hour, but make sure you get here early as it can get quite crowded, especially if you want a front row vantage point. Now back to shopping, and an area you should visit if you're after clothes is Wufenpu, especially if you are female or have kids, as the clothes shops there are more centered for them. It's not set up as a single street and more like a small block or square, so be careful as you can get lost quite easily as the shops look so similar. The shops here mainly do wholesale, although they are more than happy to sell you single items. If you're buying more than one item, by all means feel free to haggle. One for the kids is Taipei has its own Pokemon Center, and although it's busy, there wasn't a queue to get in. Lots of Pokemon plushies and trading cards, and we got a Pokemon themed Easy card and other stuff. This is Dihua Street and is a must if you want to experience a timeless and traditional Taipei. This street is lined on both sides with shop after shop, all selling traditional Chinese medicine, and you can see how they weigh out traditional herbs. Even if herbs is not your thing, you should pick up some dried mango, which make perfect gifts. When talking about Taiwanese souvenirs, an absolute must is Taiwanese pineapple cakes. Here is a glimpse of ones I think are good, and I've done a whole video on the best ones I've sampled, and the link to the video is in the description. Two places that are on the bucket list of every Taipei tourist is Shifen and Jiufen. They are both a fair distance away from Taipei, so I would allocate a full day to visit these two. The first stage is to get a train from Taipei main station to Wufenpu, where you need to change. But don't worry about missing your stop, because 99% of people on that train will be going to the same place as you, so just follow the crowd. At Wufenpu, change at platform 3 for the train to Shifen. If you're lucky, you might see these wagons that look like they carry coal. You've seen those videos on TikTok or YouTube where everyone needs to scamper when a train comes along? Well, this is the Taiwanese version, because that's where everyone stands to release the lanterns. But more on that later. Once we got to Shifen station, we decided not to go to the shops first, as we knew we were going to come back down this way. And from the station, there's ample signs showing the way to the waterfall, and depending on what time of day you go, people will all be heading in that direction or walking back towards you, so don't worry about getting lost. The journey is no more than 10 minutes and along a decent path, and has various attractions along the way, with a souvenir shop selling snacks and fruit. Once you get to the waterfall, there are various levels and vantage points, and you will definitely need it, as it's super popular, and you'll get some inconsiderate people that make so many different poses that by the time they leave, they have probably changed positions more times than the Kama Sutra. You can literally spend a couple of hours at this little stretch at Shifen station. There is a few food stalls and around 20 to 30 shops mainly selling souvenirs. The prices are pretty standardized. Most of the items are repeated, but there are some unique ones. A popular activity is to release the sky lanterns, and there's many designs to choose from, and the shopkeepers will help you take photos and videos as part of the lantern package that they sell. Next up was a 20-minute taxi ride from Shifen to Jiufen. It wasn't cheap by Taiwan standards, but it saved us from faffing around and changing trains, as the weather was absolutely miserable on that day. Before going to central Jiufen, we made a stop off at Chingyun Temple. When doing our research, we saw that this was the grandest Taoist temple, so we made it a must visit. It's on top of a mountain and quite out of the way, so although it's a total of 7 floors, we only stayed for around 20 minutes, as the taxi driver was happy to wait for us and take us back down to Jiufen afterwards. You can have a go at finding out your fortune. Take one of these sticks and then find the corresponding number in these drawers here. For instance, the one I got was number 100. The fortune ranges from bad, mid, and then good. The one I got was extremely good, which I understand is very rare. I made a small donation after finding out my fortune, as that's quite customary to do. The views can be quite stunning, but on the day we visited, it was chucking with rain, so not so good. This hall, painted almost entirely in gold leaf, was breathtaking, but take note, we were warned not to step on the bagua in the middle. From the temple to Jiufen is only 5 minutes by taxi, where you can see the famous Amba tea house, which has been rumoured to be the inspiration for Hayao Miyazaki's Spirited Away. But what they don't tell you is to get there, you have to go up multiple steep steps, so if you're going with elderly or people with limited mobility, then be extra careful. Both the steps and alleyways are narrow, and what's worse, it was pouring with rain. It felt like we were constantly having a fencing battle, jostling with umbrellas. So definitely an example of Instagram versus reality. Now let's cover the delicious food that you should try in Taipei. This first restaurant must be on the list of 95% of the people who visit Taipei, Fu Hang Soya Milk. Situated at exit 5 of the Shandao Temple MRT, hands down this is the place that I've seen with the longest queues. It normally goes down the steps and round the block. This line is only so short because it was early. although the line does move quite quickly as it's almost like a conveyor belt. So you do have a very limited time to look at the menu and order, so you might as well use the wait time to look up the menu online beforehand. This is their signature bread with egg and fried donut stick. Most people try a combination of this. We have the sweet soya milk, the salty soya milk at the bottom, and lastly the dried radish roll. I would say a safe bet is the signature bread and sweet soya, but the salty soya and the radish roll is an acquired taste. I will probably annoy the fans of Fu Hang by saying this, but it's worth a try if you're in the area, but certainly if you go there and the queue is like an hour long, it's a pass for me. Now Taiwan wouldn't be Taiwan without trying their braised pork rice, and the most conveniently located amongst the famous ones is definitely Jin Feng. I say convenient because it's just a short walk from the Chiang Memorial Hall, which you're most likely to be visiting anyway. It's busy, with queues for both takeaway and eat-in, but the wait isn't long. This was what we ordered: boiled vegetables and the signature braised pork rice. It was flavourful and not fatty at all, with a good ratio of meat and sauce to the rice. It's not a huge bowl, and for big eaters you may need 2 or more, but OMG, it was only 60 Taiwanese dollars for a large bowl, which is around £1.50 or around $2 US, which is an absolute bargain. Hope this comment doesn't find its way back to the shop. Another dish Taiwan is famous for is beef noodle, and again we looked at the famous ones and chose one that was accessible. This is Fu Hong beef noodle, which is in Ximending and about a 10-minute walk from our hotel. It's nestled in a quiet road away from the busy Ximending shopping district. For this one, we chose to get a takeout and enjoy it in the comfort of our hotel. The whole meal came in individual bags and was surprising how none of it leaked out. And here it is. The beef was soft and tender, and the soup was deep and flavourful. But the thing I enjoyed most was the thick noodles. It kind of reminded me of knife cut noodles. The noodles had a chewy, almost al dente texture. If I could have asked for seconds, I would have. Now, Fu Hong's beef noodle was nice, but this was a beef noodle I got in a food court in the basement of a department store. And I would say, overall, it was good enough, so no need to make a special trip to a famous place if you're pushed for time. If you visit Ximending, you must try this fried chicken from Hot Star, and it's so good and delicious. There's always a queue. Just look at the size of it. A few of you may recognise this cute mascot. Doesn't it remind you of a dumpling? Yep, this is the place most famous for its xiaolong bao, Ding Tai Fung. They have 9 locations in Taipei, and the busiest is probably the one at Taipei 101 because of its location. Nonetheless, the service and standard of food is the same in all of them. In each restaurant you can see how they make and prepare their famous xiaolong bao, with each dumpling being folded an exact 18 times. This place is definitely not cheap by Taiwan standards, but you got to treat yourself once in a while, right? Our next food spot is back to the heart of Ximending and is round the corner from Xingfutang. It's called Achong Flour Rice Noodles. As the name implies, they sell flour rice noodles, and that's the only thing they sell. Only choice you get is a large or a small. You can spot the crowds outside the shop from down the street, as there's no seating, so people congregate outside, standing and devouring from the cardboard pots before moving on. Standing there, you notice the servers doing the same motions over and over again, dishing out bowl after bowl. The soup is thick and gloopy and flavourful, and the noodles are nice and soft. There's a chewy ingredient in there, which at the time I didn't know what it was. I actually thought it was some sort of seafood, but after research I learned it's pig intestines, so one to avoid if you're Muslim. It's okay as a cheap snack, but I wasn't overwhelmed despite how nice people say it is. Another one to try if you're in the area, but don't make a special trip. The last 2 savoury eateries I want to introduce to you has absolutely nothing Taiwanese about them, but I went back to both of them twice, so if you have time, you may want to try it. Kura sushi can be widely found in Japan. It's what they call a kaiten sushi or conveyor belt sushi, where the food goes round and round in an endless loop. But the main draw of Kura is not the food, but the fun prize game you can play every time you devour 5 plates. There's always a queue, but because the restaurant is quite big, you do get seated quite quickly. You can pick what you fancy from the belt, or you can order from the touchscreen at each table. When the order is ready, it zooms up to you on a separate belt. After you finish with the food, slide the plates into this hole, which counts the plates for the prize game, as well as calculating how many you owe for the bill. After each 5, it plays a graphic, and you can see if you've won a small gacha prize. It's not guaranteed, as we only won twice after 25 plates, and the prize is just some small accessory, but it's fun nonetheless, and the kids will love it. Matsuya, like its competitors Yoshinoya and Sukiya, are most famous for their beef bowls, although they do other rice bowls and noodles too. It's simple to order, as it's a self-serve machine which has multiple languages, and you give the ticket to the kitchen. I mainly go for the beef or pork rice, although the eel looks yummy too. The beef or pork there must have been simmered for hours because it feels so soft and tender. This is a beef bowl with a half-cooked egg, which if you mix it in makes the rice ultra smooth. The main draws for this comfort food is the extended opening hours and the price. It was 88 Taiwanese dollars for a rice bowl, which is just over £2, whereas in the UK you'd be lucky if it's £10. Look at these amazing cakes and desserts. I'm a big desserts fan and will happily hunt down a good sweet, so let me share with you what I had in Taipei. First is an unassuming dessert shop called Yu's Almond Tofu. It's supposedly been open since 2004 and in exactly the same shop as when I last went to Taiwan 9 years ago, so it's definitely holding its own in this fast changing foodie world. As the name portrays, its speciality is almond based desserts, both hot and cold. And if you don't like almonds, tough. But seriously, the almond flavour is not overpowering, and they do a small amount of non-almond flavoured desserts too. For instance, here is a matcha flavoured shaved ice. Most shaved ice places have flavourless shaved ice and just add multiple flavourings to give it taste. The shaved ice here is almond infused, so there's flavour even if you add no sauces at all. Here is the almond shaved ice, and within it is grass jelly, boba and some nuts. It was only 5 degrees outside, but I suffered for you to show you this shaved ice. This next one is a small little shop just before you enter Shilin Market. It's called Anders, and they do Portuguese tarts. Although I would describe it as a cross between a Portuguese tart and a Hong Kong custard tart. It was deep filled and had a crispy, delicious pastry. Next up, a meal crepe place that's supposedly quite famous in Asia and America, Lady M. For those that have never tried a meal crepe, it's a cake made from layers of French crepe and sandwiched between those layers, rich flavoured cream. I tried the original and the Earl Grey. Although the Earl Grey tasted nice, I found the flavour a bit too light, but the original was nice and creamy. Let me introduce to you a Japanese cheesecake. Some people call it a souffle cheesecake. The best one I have tried and repeatedly go back to is Rikuru Oji-san in Osaka. Well, I couldn't get to Osaka this time, so this one by Uncle Tetsu will have to do. This is located in Taipei main station on the concourse section. They have a chocolate and sometimes a matcha version, but the original is probably the best. They bake it fresh in store, and this is what it looks like. It's best eaten hot, which gives it a soft, airy texture. When cold, it becomes more dense. Not as good, but still tastes yummy. In the same area of Taipei Station, they also have beard papa. This is popular throughout Japan and Asia for their cream puffs. Here you can see her filling the choux bun with their signature custard cream. And this is what they look like. An airy outer shell with gooey custard inside. This is Mr. Donut. They have their own standalone stores, but also available in some 7-Eleven. I would thoroughly recommend their signature Ponder Ring, which is a donut with individually separable chewy balls of goodness. Lastly, we have Krispy Kreme. Although American and not Taiwanese, I find in Asia they take more care in their designs and have more variety of flavours than the boring ones they repeat in the UK. For instance, this is a matcha donut and this is supposed to resemble a dragon. Do you remember the cut up fruit I showed you earlier? That was a custard apple and the taste does remind you of custard. A must try whilst in Taiwan, and this is what the uncut fruit looks like. Here, I'm going to give a little plug for the hotel I stayed in, as obviously for you to visit Taipei, you will need a place to stay. Let me give you the positives and then I'll tell you the negatives. I stayed at the Amba Hotel in Ximending. This is the street scene downstairs from the hotel. You literally fall right into the main shopping district of Ximending. It's about a 10-minute walk from either Ximen or Beimen station. The first few floors of the building is the Elite department store, so the lobby is on the 5th floor. There's a breakfast bar / restaurant, but because good food is so plentiful in Ximending, I'm guilty of not having used it at all. Let me show you my standard room. They don't have single beds, with the smallest bed being a king. And this is the one I booked for my parents, which has access to a balcony. In each room was a jar of sweets and snacks, fruit, 2 bottles of ramune type drinks, and 2 bottles of water which they replace daily for you. That happy birthday sign that you saw there was because when booking they noticed that it was my mum's birthday and they had the sign up when we arrived and left this cake in the fridge. It was a nice gesture as there was no obligation for them to do anything at all. And from the balcony, if you're hungry, you can even see McDonald's. And in Taipei guides, they say make sure you bring a travel adapter with you, as they use the flat pin adapters in Taiwan. But look at the sockets in my room. That outlet will fit most countries' appliances. So the travel adapters we brought, we didn't even need to use at all. Oh, did I say I would mention the negatives for this hotel? Well, there wasn't any. The rooms were spacious and clean, great location, cleaning staff and reception staff were friendly. The lobby staff helped us book a cab on checkout and even helped us with our luggage. I must have looked into over a dozen hotels before I booked this one, and the reason I booked this one was because I couldn't find a single negative review anywhere. This final part is my final conclusion and summary of Taipei. Have you been wondering why I haven't shown you the inside of Taipei 101? To be fair, it's been done to death in every Taipei travel guide, and I've been there before and my parents didn't think the cost was worth it. So for this guide, I've chosen to skip it and cover other things instead. The official language in Taiwan is Mandarin Chinese. You will find it helpful if you can read Chinese or kanji. It's fairly easy to get around using the MRT, with signs and announcements in both Chinese and English. My understanding of Mandarin is basic at best, so don't worry about the language barrier. We'll definitely be able to get by with just English. Make sure you pick up an Easy Card as soon as you can. They come in various designs and are sold in stations and convenience stores. It saves you the hassle of buying single train tickets. You can get tax refund in Taiwan, but to be honest, I didn't bother, as you need to spend over $2,000 in one store and had various forms to fill in, when the tax rate in Taiwan is only 5%. But what I did do instead was to participate in Taiwan's receipt lottery. It's a lottery where all you need to do to participate is to keep the receipts when you do any shopping, whether you pay by cash or card, it doesn't matter, it still qualifies. With the grand prize being 10 million Taiwan dollars or £250,000, which if you win is a perfect excuse for you to revisit Taiwan so you can claim your prize. Taiwan is a country where they don't allow jaywalking, and they have these countdowns which benefits both pedestrians and drivers. A top tip if you're travelling with elderly, children or a group of 4 or 5 is to consider getting a taxi. We started off getting MRT everywhere, but towards the end we tended to get taxis, and coming from the UK, the taxis here are cheap anyway. In terms of safety, Taiwan I would count as one of the safest cities I've been to, as safe as Hong Kong, South Korea or Japan. And I had absolutely no concerns walking around, filming with my phone at all times of the day. For example, this shop where you take photos and they have props for you to use was left unattended and not locked at all. That shop wouldn't have lasted half a day in London. Two negatives I should point out is, sometimes you could be walking around and you get hit by this foul smell, which after a while I realised it was a sewer smell, and this was in winter, so in summer it would be worse. Another negative is there is far too many mopeds. Not that the roads are unsafe, as you aren't supposed to jaywalk anyway, but because it stinks of exhaust fumes. Yes, there is a lot of electric vehicles, but look at this that I filmed at a random traffic light. Make sure you bring a cheap notepad with you, especially if you have kids, as all metro stations have these unique stamps located where the station attendants are based, and it's free. All in all, Taiwan is a great place to visit with lots to do and eat, and tons of yummy snacks for you to bring back, so make sure you bring 2 suitcases, as this is just a small sample of what I bought. Thanks for watching.